Hello and welcome to another product video from Commercial Audio Solutions. Today we're looking at the Microplayer from Wave Systems, who are a French manufacturer of audio and video players. This small device is useful for playing audio files in systems where you want a message going out over the PA system. You might want to start the message from a closing contact or from a PIR, or you may want it for messages which are emergency messages, obviously not life safety, but it could also play background music and sounds and different effects and things like that. So we're just going to run through the features on the Microplayer, and on the second part of the video we'll show you how to program it with a basic programming system with the SD card. So on the front panel it will play files from SD cards or from USB sticks. You've got a volume control on the front. There's a built-in amplifier which gives you 2 by 10 watts, so you can power 2 8-ohm speakers if you want a little standalone system. The volume control on the front just alters the volume level to the speakers. These 2 buttons can be programmed to start messages, stop messages and various other functions. That's done in the text file on the SD card when you program it. Moving around the back of the player, we've got the inputs and the outputs for the player. So this player will run off RS-232, so the first set of green Phoenix connectors is the RS-232 connection. We've then got 4 contact inputs which can be used to start 4 messages. These are just 0-volt closing contacts. We've also got 2 relay outputs which can be programmed inside the player to close when the actual player is playing a message. These will handle up to half an amp of low voltage, and it can be used for operating relays and other devices like lights and things like that. And again, we've got the speaker outputs for driving 2 8-ohm speakers up to 10 watts aside. There's also a line level output on phonos, and we've got the USB connector if you want to use a USB stick instead of an SD stick. There's also a headphone output, so this can be useful if you've got a museum piece where there's an interactive display and a pair of headphones there, and somebody comes along and presses a button and you can start a piece of music or a message going through a set of headphones as well. The player accepts SD cards. They recommend using Sandisk cards, which are a reliable brand. It also comes with a remote control device, which is an infrared remote control. This will allow you to start and stop files. It will also allow you to turn the volume up and down, and also there's a couple of function keys on here which mimic these 2 buttons, which you could use to start one specific file and stop another file. As I said, this is an infrared device, so there's an infrared eye on the front.
Okay, we're now in Windows Explorer, File Explorer, and we're just going to program the USB stick or the SD card to actually make a simple program. In this case I'm using a USB stick, and you'll see this on the left hand side. So we need to create a few folders on the card. For this example I'm creating a system where I'm going to have 2 messages starting from a closing contact. The player will just sit in standby when it's switched on until the closing contacts actually activate the message. So I'll show you what to do on the card. So we create a folder which is called 000. This is basically a default power on folder, so if you wanted to put any form of audio track or music in there, in this folder, the player will start auto playing it when the player switches on. In this instance we're not going to put anything in there, so basically the player will see the folder, see there's nothing in it, and then just come to a stop. So the next folder we're going to create is called 001. Now this relates to contact input number 1, so that's the reason it's 001. We also need to put in brackets after the 001 that once the player has played folder 1, it's going to go back to folder 0. So the way we do that is in square brackets we put the jump command. So it's J000. That tells the player to, after it's played everything in folder 001, it'll then jump back to 000. And then we'll create another folder for contact input number 2. And again, we want that to jump back to 000 when it's finished, making sure everything's in capitals as well. Just to show you, if you want to use contacts inputs 3 and 4, the folder names are slightly different because the player itself can actually handle up to 15 combinations of those 4 contact inputs, which will actually allow you to play up to 15 different folders. We sell an additional add-on board from Wave Systems, which allows you to easily connect up 15 trigger inputs to the 4 contact inputs on the back of the player. But so for contact input 3, you would name the folder 004, and for contact input number 4, it would be 008. From then on it goes to 16, 32, etc. It's all in the manual if you need to do things like that, but for this instance we won't be using those two, so I'm just going to delete those now. So we've got our folder set up there now. What we need to do is actually add the sound files into the card. The sound files must be WAV or MP3. The WAV format maximum resolution is 44.1 kHz, 16-bit, and for the MP3 the maximum resolution is 320 kilobytes per second. The tracks must have no ID tags, so no licensing in the actual files. If they do, the player probably won't read the file, or the file will be corrupted and won't play properly. So I've got in my music documents, I've got a couple of messages, or these are a couple of tones actually. So I'm just going to copy these into the root of the card. So go back to the card again and just copy and paste them in there. So you'll see those in the root now. So we need to put these into the relevant folders to where they're going to get played on the contact inputs. So this first file we're going to put into folder 1, and the second file we're going to put into folder 2. So if you just open those, you'll see the files are in there. You can add as many files as you want within reason into these folders, and there are ways of making the player play the folders either in a sequenced order or in a random order. This is an additional set of commands you would put in the actual file name of the folder. Again, it's in the manual which tells you what to do on that. Default, I'm pretty certain it just plays in a random order. One thing we showed you in the actual example when we went through the looking at the actual physical features of the player, we said that it has 2 relay contact outputs which can be used to open and close when files are being played. So this is useful for operating relays which can then operate other devices. If you want that to happen with your folders when they're being played, you need to add into the file name an additional set of brackets. The command is RL, and then you've got 2 digits after the RL. The first digit is to do with relay output number 1, and the second digit is to do with relay output number 2. And there's 3 states that they can be in. They can either be 0, 1 or 2. 0 relates to the relay being open, 1 relates to the relay being closed whilst the folder is being played, and number 2 is relating to the relay being permanently closed. So in our instance we want to open relay number 1 and we want it to play whilst the folder is open, so we put 1 in there and we put 0 next to it, and we just close the brackets again. So basically now when that contact input is played, the relay will open number 1, and obviously when the folder is finished playing it'll jump back to number 0. There are lots of other things you can make the player do with regards to RS-232. Again, it's a little bit more detailed and it's in the manual, and if you've got any questions just drop us a comment or contact us directly about this. But this will be sort of a basic setup if you want to play 1 or 2 messages in, say, a PA system, in a leisure centre, things like that. Another thing to remember is once you've programmed the card, is you need to right click on it and eject it from your PC before moving it. And also, if you're taking the card in and out of the player must be switched off. It just it stops the corruption of the card in the event that there's a possibility of corruption. Once the card is in the player and you power it on, you'll find the LED on the player should go green. If it goes red, that means either there's a fault on the card or it's not reading the card properly. So when it's in stationary mode, the green LED should be on just permanently. When the player is actually active, the green LED will start flashing.